Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky, and today I'm very excited to have Dr. Benjamin Ritter joining us. Ben, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so I'll just take a quick moment to introduce you for those that aren't familiar with you and your work, but you are a leadership executive and career coaching consultant at your firm, LFY Consulting. You help managers and executives gain control over their careers and businesses. You work with some well-known organizations as well, like Amazon, Google, Pinterest, Yelp, and many others. But I'd like to get our conversation started here today by going back in time. I believe you started your business around 2016, if I'm not mistaken. What were you doing before then? What was kind of leading up to that time? What did your kind of career path look like?
Yeah, so thank you for that great introduction. And anyone listening, it's super helpful if you target some of these big companies initially in your consulting career, just to say like, yeah, I've worked with these companies, just because I'll tell you, it's made a big difference in my bios.
there you go.
Yeah. Other than just the experience of working with them and, the fact that you get on their referral bit, they're kind of their referral list and stuff. But just so it's funny whenever I hear those names, I'm just like, because, don't always work with Amazon, right? Don't always work with Google, but you got to throw them in there.
Your claim to fame.
Yeah, right. And it's, anyways, that's a different story in itself, right? Building that brand recognition and credibility, and who do you really want to work with? But in 2015, I was working in healthcare. I was just promoted to the executive team. So I was moved from quality improvement, process improvement. My official title at that time was group systems analyst. I was implementing best practices, creating programs to improve patient outcomes in the healthcare system. I was promoted to work with the executive team as a manager of business operations. So completely changed what I was doing for work to be at that kind of senior leadership level, and was pretty unhappy with what I was doing for my career. Like I was up to that point, I was pretty, there's a lot of excuses, but I was reactive instead of proactive, and kind of gave up in terms of being really targeted with my search. A lot of things happened to help me realize that I was pretty unhappy. At the same time, I knew a lot about personal development and defining who I was. And so I was able to sit back and say, okay, what are the things that I care about? Like, what are the things that really drive me? What are the things that I don't like? What are the things that I want to work on in the future? What are my strengths? How can I bring those all together? And I didn't get the answer just yet. With anyone looking for clarity, anyone's looking like, I need to make a change, you're not going to get this huge answer, right? When you start asking questions, but you're going to get evidence. And you're going to get things to go do research on. And what came from that research was, okay, I'm really good coaching. Love coaching. I love the development of people. There's these issues in the professional environment and with senior leadership that I want to help correct. So in terms of there's organizational changes I want to make, there's leadership changes I want to make, and then I also want to impact people. And so that led me to say, okay, I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do this, but let's see what options are available to me. First option, go to my corporation, go to the hospital system I was a part of, and say, hey, look, I'm part of this emerging leadership program. I'm working with the director of people. Can I do work with him? Can I work in this area? Can I, like, 10% of my job, 20% of my job? Let's start getting experience in it. They said yes, lo and behold, as well as my boss did. And then about a month later, we got acquired for the second time, and everything I was working on got stopped. Things were getting centralized. Most of the people I was working with got fired. They did not make the cut. There's a little safety not being at the top, but like being like right below the top,
right?
Especially when somebody else comes in. So then I had to say, okay, now what? And I looked for other jobs in like the talent development space, and that just wasn't happening because I had 7 years of non-talent development experience and other experience in health policy. So I thought to myself, okay, I know how to build a business. I've actually had a side business at the time in coaching. It just wasn't super successful. It was like a little bit of revenue. So I've learned what works there. I learned what doesn't work there. I can build a brand. The problem is I don't want to just jump right in. I want to make sure that I'm building the right brand, because at this point in my career, I'm literally going to, like, that business didn't work. That business wasn't aligned with what I wanted to create in my life. It wasn't aligned with my values. So that's 5 years that I just have to kind of try to wipe clean from the internet and from the people that know me as that person. And so I said, I don't want to do that again. I want to make sure that I'm really thoughtful in this process. If I can't get a job working for a company right now in it, and I can't work for my current company in this space, so let's go become credible. Let's go exploring. Let's get curious. Let's see what I can find out about organizational leadership and coaching and professional development. And so that led me to go back and get my doctorate in organizational leadership. And during my first kind of year, about halfway in, I realized where I wanted to take things. And that's when I created Live for Yourself Consulting on the back of a napkin on an airplane going to California to take another class, because I was working full time in Chicago and flying to LA to take classes every month. And that's where Live for Yourself Consulting was born. Now the messaging has changed a little bit over the years, just based on market, testing and stuff like that, and who's attracted to it. But that's how Live for Yourself Consulting was born. That's what I was doing at the time.
I mean, there's so many lessons and ideas that you just shared there to unpack. I think one is this idea that when you're making a change from where you are to where you want to be, you're not going to necessarily get instant clarity on exactly like what you need to do, but just by starting, by kind of thinking, defining what does that direction look like, what does potential success look like, that's going to be already some progress. So I think that's great advice. The other thing you mentioned is asking, like going to your bosses at that time and saying, hey, here's something I'd like to do more of. Is there a way that I could do more of it? A lot of people have that desire, but don't actually act on it. And I've also found, in my career, even going back 20 plus years, like when I was in school and doing some studies, that there's a lot of things that I pushed boundaries on or had changes inside of programs that the average person wouldn't have even thought that you could do. And it's just, I've seen this so many times in my life, like play out in different aspects and areas of my life, that when you ask for something, you'll be surprised how often you actually get it, or you get some of what you get, but you need to ask. So don't be afraid to ask. You talk about values. You said that, you had this coaching kind of business on the side as you were working in a corporate environment, but the values of that business weren't aligned to really where, you wanted them to be. Can you talk a little bit more about what did that look like? What were the old values compared to like what the actual values were, or the direction that you want to take them, just to help to maybe demonstrate for people that regardless of what you've done in the past, there's always opportunity to adjust or to, get closer to where you actually want to go. But I'd love if you could just paint that example of like before and after.
Yeah, I'm a great summary, by the way. It's super listener here, like probably one of your superpowers. I am distilling, stories into bullet points that people can understand. So like kudos in a lot of ways.
Thank you.
That is a consultant and a coach's, right? Like it's kind of like a unique trait. If you can do that, then there's a lot of power in that.
Certainly.
So I'm kind of a values geek, self-proclaimed values geek. I wrote a dissertation and did a research study on values, and believe that values are the key to fulfillment, job satisfaction, and are really the conduit to understanding and what success truly means for yourself. So at the time when I was coaching, I actually kind of fell into that. As I said, I was very reactive instead of proactive in my career. And when I was in undergrad, I wanted to be a professional soccer player. That didn't work out. And when you want to do something with your whole being and that doesn't work out, you lose your self identity. So you have to learn how to craft who you are. You have to go exploring again. This theme of curiosity keeps playing out. And during that search for who I was, I kind of really dove into the personal and professional development material and that kind of industry space. And so for about 4 or 5 years, I studied it religiously. And at the end of that, I was really happy with who I was. I was very happy exploring life and living each and every single day, and was motivated to wake up, which is not the case when I lost soccer. And so part of that, though, was going out and putting myself in uncomfortable situations, like going into a room and talking to people at random, and high-fiving people on the street, like literally anything you could think of when it comes to testing yourself socially. And I was at a bar one night, and someone kind of realized what I was doing and says, you need to meet my boss the next day. And so I went to go meet him, and he hired me to run his nationwide kind of men's program on teaching those skills to other people. And kind of fell into it. And so when you fall into something, you become, oh, this is great. I'm passionate about this. But then I didn't like how he was operating his business. And I said, well, I still have things that I want to teach the world in this. So I wrote a book, realized that no one would buy the book because they didn't know who I was, didn't have a brand. So that's where the coaching business came from. Fast forward 5 years, had some success, wrote for Ask Men, Men's Health, had a podcast going, top in the categories that we were a part of, had some clients, had some events, but it was something that I fell into, never wanted to craft a career around. And there was just this, oh, this is kind of working, I should invest more time and energy into it. That ended up not being right for me. Like it wasn't at all what I really wanted to create for my professional Like I couldn't, if I sat back and said, Ben, what do you want to do in 5 years? What do you want to do in 2 years? It wasn't that, but I was kind of on autopilot,
Right.
trying to make it work just because I thought it should work. And so when I really did that, took that how to look at my like full time, right? Actually the whole spectrum of my career, right? The multiple income streams, like everything that I was doing with my time, I realized that nothing really aligned with what I wanted to create. And so when I said that, like, I wasn't living in alignment with my values, like I was doing certain things that kind of hinted at them. Like my number one value is health. So mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, like all aspects of health. But it wasn't in the category that I cared most about, which was actually like your professional environment and what you choose to do for your career. And that section, right? If you look at my background, it's like, oh, because your professional identity was destroyed when you lost soccer. You had these terrible experiences working in healthcare as an executive. You were investing in a coaching business that wasn't truly like where you really wanted to spend your time. During a recession out of grad school for 2.5 years, you received 4 different job offers, you signed on a dotted line, and they canceled the jobs the next day. So like there were all these huge moments that highlighted the importance of this category, this section of health for me personally. And so I was just operating in the wrong area. And so I was still kind of living true to my value, but there was some dissonance. There was some, I was dissatisfied other than just how I was perceiving the world. And so I was able to look at those values again, kind of redefine them for what they meant for me personally and what I wanted to create in the world and look forward instead of just kind of just reacting to the situations around me. And I hope that adds a little bit more context.
Did you feel like, how did you feel when you were considering that decision? And I'm asking from the perspective of, you had invested a lot into where you already were, like you had developed assets, you had created, visibility in the marketplace for who you were. But as you said, like that wasn't really what you actually wanted longer term. Was that a hard decision to say, you know what, I'm going to, in a sense, kind of scrap what I've been working so hard on all these years to go a different direction? And yeah, there may be some overlap that I can build on top. So it's not like 100% from scratch, but it's definitely a different direction. How did you feel? Like, was that a liberating feeling? Was that a scary feeling? Like, just kind of walk us through what was going on in your mind as you were in that place making that decision.
Well, whenever you're in that place making that decision, it's tough and it's scary and it's not fun. It doesn't feel good because you're just like, I spent all this time and all this energy building up to this point, and I don't want this to be the point that I keep like building on and investing in. At least with the business, that was a little bit easier because I could say I learned all these things about creating a coaching company, and those skills have been priceless. Like using Photoshop, understanding how to launch and edit and create podcasts, like the Premiere, all those products, how to coach, how to build a business, how to market, how to create how to create an ideal client. Like all these things are priceless. And so I could apply them and build a business quicker than I did previously. I'd say the hardest part about that was actually just changing my brand, like because people knew who I was and kind of having to try to figure out how to destroy all the information. But the career piece is scarier because you're looking ahead of you and you're like, okay, so 3 years, maybe 4 of this degree. And then I'm pivoting into a whole nother industry. So all these skills that I learned potentially aren't going to be able to build on my career capital moving forwards. So that in itself is a lot scarier. But if you stop for a second, anywhere that you're at, because if anyone's contemplating a change like this, it can feel overwhelming. But rewind 3 years, rewind 5 years, rewind 10 years and say, does that seem like it was that long ago? Did I know that I was going to end up here 5 years ago? And so it's like most of the time you're going to say, oh, it went a lot quicker than I thought it was. And I had no idea I was going to end up where I am today. If that's the case, why not choose where you want to go? Because, and so it's like time's going to pass either way. Do you want time to pass in a way that you choose or do you want time to pass in a way that you've just kind of accepted, right? You've kind of like just decided that it was going to be enough, or you're going to end up being content because you can't imagine dedicating other time and energy to it. Yeah. And the same thing can go with like working out, right? Are you just not going to go to the gym because you aren't going to see results for 16 weeks, or maybe a year or 2 years? Are you not going to go study a language because you're not fluent tomorrow? And so any change that you want to make in your life is going to take an investment. It's like is that change worth it to you?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what's happened in the past.
Yes, it's a really great perspective, and I think will hopefully resonate and give everyone who's joining us something to think about in some aspect of their life, whether even personal or professional. I want to fast forward a little bit. So you had now this experience of building your business on the side. It didn't go the way that you'd wanted, but things, were starting to kind of come together. And so you applied that to your new business. How did you go about getting your first clients for the new business for LFY Consulting when you launched that? Where did those first clients come from?
Yeah, and just to note too, by the way, when you're building something or investing time to create something, you're not doing anything else. Like there's balance in your life. Like the fact that I was going to school for 3 years and building a business on the side, and I was working full time in another capacity. I was bartending in another capacity. Like that led to new relationships. That led to my partner that I'm still with today. That led to so many experiences and travel. Like it was this. You can create priceless moments while you're building other things. It's not like life is on pause.
Sure.
Life is all about, anyways. So get off my soapbox for a moment.
You're good. You're good.
So first clients came from in-person events and from my kind of second network. So a lot of times people say, oh, look at your first network for clients. And it's usually not your first network. It's usually their network. So it's about getting your first network to know what your brand is. When I was building my business, after I kind of was like, okay, this looks good on a napkin. What does it look like in real life? I went in, because it's a coaching business and there was systems and pillars and stuff. I went out and found clients that would work for me for basically that I would work with for free. Okay. And so I had three test clients and for a 3-month program. And during those 3 months, I was, building my messaging, kind of the getting out there, but more so testing things out with these clients. And so these clients became testimonials. These clients became referrals. And then once I knew what worked and what didn't work, I was able to actually speak to the program in a way like I've done it. Right. And so when you're working with someone, even if it is for free, when you're talking to someone about your business, you can say, yeah, my client, or with this client, because these are people you're actually working with. So you're able to even feel more confident about what you're discussing.
Sure. Were these people that you actually had a relationship already, like before you offered your program? Okay. 100%.
In my current network, people that I was close to, people that needed coaching, people that resonated and trusted me. Right. And so, you can go into a Facebook group or an external environment that you're maybe a member of or a partner of and offer your services. There are people that will say yes. There are issues with that if you don't know them, because people aren't really invested. They're not going to show up in the same way for a free program as they would for a paid program.
Sure.
But this isn't about them. It's about you to learn. Right. And to build your business and kind of the foundation from it. The paid clients.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to ask you, I mean, my apologies for interrupting. I'm wondering, you provide this experience for these 3 people. They went through a 3-month program. They saw results. A lot of learnings and experiences for you that you could take from that. How did you then, what were the steps to take those experiences and that work to actually now go out and get referrals? Did the 3 people just go like, hey, yeah, this is great, Ben. We want to introduce you to 5 different people, or did you ask them, was it some proactive kind of strategic approach that you use to get your next paying clients from those free clients?
Well, capture testimonials, have them write testimonials, prior to them starting a free program. Say, okay, at the end of this program, I expect you to write a testimonial if it made a difference in your life. I expect you to publish that online, like a Google business page. And I expect you to share this with 3 to 5 people that you know, and to provide me their information too, if they're interested.
So you were very clear up front before even engaging, I'm going to provide you a lot of value for free, but in return, if you feel that it was valuable, here's what I'd love for you to do.
100%. And even clients that I work with today that are paid, I ask them for a testimonial at the end. Right. I ask them a series of questions. I ask them to publish it on Google. I ask them for referrals, because you'd imagine that someone that had a great experience with something would go share it with other people. That is not the case. No one just generally thinks about referring people to your business. Yeah. And they could, I've had clients that have, doubled, tripled their income, changed their life, gotten their dream jobs it's just no one. I've never met one person that has automatically referred someone to me because they thought about it. It's more so that I've asked them and then it's occurred from it.
Is that still the engine of your, your leads and conversation sales even to this day? Or is there anything that you're doing differently today than you were doing back then?
Yeah. So up until the world shut down, I was basically built my business from in-person events in that community. I had a series of events that I would host once or twice a month. One was like, they were speakers. One was more of like a connecting mastermind type of group with kind of a networking component built in. And when, I thought that was the way that I was going to keep sustaining my business. And those clients then turned into, there was like some referrals, but most of it was still outbound. And when the world shut down, it probably was the best thing that happened to me because I realized I didn't need my in-person community. I doubled down on LinkedIn. I really made sure that my SEO was up to date on Google and on LinkedIn itself. I started doing a ton of LinkedIn outreach. And then I also transitioned to virtual events. And so now the majority of my clients come from LinkedIn and Google inbound. So it's and referrals. I'd say probably 40% now come from events. No, 30% probably come from events. And now my outbound has decreased significantly too. Something else I started doing as well is I found services that were related to what I do, and I signed up to be a contractor for them. Their volume has led to a ton of like online reviews and increased my SEO as well. And so people may see me on that site, but then use me and leverage me through my, other services.
Okay. So I got to get to break that down a little bit more. So,
yeah.
On the using of services of others that are not direct competitor, like just walk me through, can you give me an example of what that is when you say you use somebody else's services? Like, so what does that actually look like?
So like a year and a half ago, this was actually because I was just kind of bored. I was just kind of in a silo. And as you probably know, as a solopreneur, you have your clients and you have your community, but it's just kind of, it's limiting. Like you don't really know what's going on outside of yourself. And so it's really good for you to spend some time looking at people that are kind of competitors, but also kind of in like parallel businesses. So for example, I'm a, leadership and career coach. So a parallel business for me would be something like the Muse. And the Muse is an online website that does like resumes, LinkedIn profiles, cover letters, job interview, leadership coaching. So they do some services in relationship to me, but they're more of like a compilation of other coaches. Like they just have them on their website. So I was able to join them, learn about their processes, right? Learn their training materials, see how they're managing, see how they're marketing, and then also be a part of their system on a minuscule scale, to then also leverage my profile, leverage my bio, get more inbound clients, people that know about me that then can refer me out, and also get more reviews, which then builds up my online presence too. And so it's like you're leveraging this organization that has a huge following, right? And like already has done the work for you in terms of being able to promote your business. And so there's a couple other examples like that have been, I think, pretty helpful and super worthwhile.
So what I'm hearing you kind of share there is this idea of kind of tapping into an ecosystem, tapping into a platform that your ideal clients are already likely part of, or they go to get information. And so rather than you having to, let's say, spend a whole bunch of money on advertising or do a ton of direct outreach to ideal clients, which I do want to talk about in a moment in terms of what you did there, but here's already a platform or a place that your ideal clients are going to get information. And so by you being part of that platform, you now start to get some inquiries, or, people are talking about you, or you become much more visible, correct?
100%. You can take that same strategy and apply it to podcasts, apply it to blogs, etc. So it's targeted, right? You're getting in front of people that are your target client.
You mentioned also LinkedIn outreach, and that you were doing more of that before, you're doing less of that now. Can you just kind of walk through, like, what did you do there? We just reach out to people that you thought could be ideal clients, say like, hey, I can help you with leveling up your career. Like how did you, because oftentimes that comes across as being very salesy to people, and they're hesitant to get, to respond to people that are reaching out directly to them. So
100%.
What did you feel worked best for you there, or any mistakes that you learned that, you'd suggest other people avoid?
Yep. 3 biggest mistakes I see people make on LinkedIn when they're doing outbound sales. First, their profile is in alignment with what they're trying to sell. Second, the message is too long. Third, the message is a sales pitch. So what you need to do initially is make sure that your brand identity on LinkedIn is consistent with what you're selling and aligns with what people are looking for or thinking about when there are issues. My LinkedIn profile now, because of its like SEO, the keywords that I've put in there, as well as the amount of followers that I now have, which is about like 24K, I think almost, because I spend a lot of time connecting with people on LinkedIn. It puts me in search, like up there in the search when someone types in career coach or leadership coach. At least that's what they tell me, right? When I ask them how they found me.
Right.
So when someone goes to my page, when they see a message from me, my headline, which is what they see, is get unstuck, unlock your professional superpowers, and create a career you love. Executive leadership and career coach, right? There's some other pieces, but like, so they know what I sell. They know what I'm there for. So I don't need to put that in my message. Right. I don't need to put that in my connection request. Now, if they accept my connection request, because you could just go connect with people. I literally can just go hit connect with people that are in my target area, right? Senior managers, directors, VPs, or CEOs, some industry specific. If I want to search and actually do some outbound there, but I do like to put a little bit of a message that's just pretty general. And I'll even read you exactly what I send. And if someone accepts this, a percentage of those people are interested in what I'm selling. And it's my job to make sure that I follow up to give them the opportunity to allow me to sell to them. And if they just accept my like, no one that wants what you're selling is probably going to reply to you. I'd say a small percentage on the first connection request on LinkedIn.
Sure.
They will probably reply to the first message. They might reply to a second message. I don't appreciate the 3 to 4 to 5 messages, to be honest. I don't think that is significant. I want to also share with you the fact that I will follow up with anyone that looks at my profile, and I will also look at anyone that follows me with a message that's something as simple as, "Hey, I saw that you checked out my profile. Was there anything specific that caught your eye?" And that has led to a significant amount of business.
So let me know, share with us. You mentioned you could read out what your first or second messages are to people.
Yep. I'm actually pulling that up right now. So I've changed it a couple times. One of them that I use, right, so I'll do A/B testing. So one I'm testing right now is, if you're interested in the topics of leadership and career development, it'd be great to connect and introduce one another.
Okay.
Period. That's it.
Yeah.
And if someone accepts that, then I know that they're interested in those topics, or they just maybe accepted me for no reason, or that they saw my headline and they wanted to connect. Another one that is, so a different one that has been, so a lot of people will say like, hey, you should need to really like target and pinpoint your message in terms of like who you're reaching out to, what their background is and all that jazz. And because it takes more time, energy, and effort, and it's also not going to significantly increase your response rates. One other one that nope, actually that's the one that I would probably recommend.
And what about, so when people do accept the connection request, how do you follow up after that? What does that message look like?
Yeah, something like such as, thanks for connecting, or I actually usually say not thanks, but it's great to connect. What was it about my background that interested you most? Or something such as simple as, it's great to connect. Would you be interested in a short introductory phone call to get to know one another? And if someone wants the phone call with you, now you can add an extra screener if you want, okay, qualifying questions such as, if they say yes, you're like, great, what topics do you want to cover? Then to make sure that you're not just getting someone that just wants to waste your time. But if someone accepts a call with me because of my profile and because of the initial message, then they're going to want something. And sometimes, especially within my field, with the kind of this professional development, they don't want to type it out to you. They want to talk.
So and what kind of results have you seen by doing that? Like how many calls, how much business does that generate? Just kind of give us a sense of the success of that approach.
Yeah, and I will say, if anyone is expecting 90% of the people that they message to want to buy from them, then they're in for a surprise.
Yeah.
It is 100% about quantity. So if someone gets on a sales call with me, I know that they're pre-qualified, they're interested in leadership and career coaching. Like we've literally defined this prior to getting on the call. They filled out a form with me. Then my close rate is a little over 40%. It's like 44%. Now, if someone just says that they want to connect with me, it's my job prior to that call to see what they're actually interested in, what topics they want to cover. So that actual message of, what topics do you want to cover prior to jumping on a call is really important. Because if I don't, then you get people that are just looking to connect and you want, build relationships. And that's not where I'm at with my business. It's not where I want to spend my time. With
Gotcha.
with like sending out connection requests, I'd probably say 20 to 30%, maybe, because I am a little bit more specific in terms of my, like, I'm not just connecting. I'm like, there's a bit about leadership and career development. So people probably actually don't accept based on the fact that they think I'm going to try to sell them.
You also mentioned that you're doing less outreach now than you were before. Why are you doing less of that? Is it working not as much, or you do not need to? Is the focus shifted?
Yeah, I don't need to. So I've done enough work with my business to create referrals. I've built enough relationships with organizations where they're able to reimburse their leaders to work with me. I get my SEO is a lot better, so people are finding me. I'm getting a lot more LinkedIn inbound, LinkedIn service requests, Google inbound as well, and email list conversions. So it's just there's not as much need to do the outbound at the moment.
I also wanted to ask you about your framework. I mean, you have the kind of like the 3 C's of self-leadership: clarity, confidence, and control. You could talk through what those are maybe just a moment, but before doing that, I'm really interested in terms of, like, we're big believers in having frameworks and bringing those into the business, both for your benefit of being able to explain what it is that you do with confidence, but also from a sales perspective. What's been your experience like developing that framework, and how have you found it to help or not help you in different aspects of your business?
Yeah, frameworks are great because it's easy for you to understand what you're selling. It's easy for you to explain what you're going to take a client through, so what they're going to expect. And it gives you talking points to even go on podcasts or to speak at events.
Right.
Without a framework, it's hard for someone to believe in you as a consultant. It's also a way for you to create a unique value proposition. So my initial framework was actually live life intentions, values, and expectations, hence Live for Yourself Consulting, LFY Consulting. And through my work, I've realized that there were individuals that were really good at making progress, and they were just like superstars. And I said, well, what's going on with them? And I was able to pinpoint kind of 3 main traits: clarity, confidence, and control, which relates to my initial system, but it's a little bit deeper and more understandable, right, by my target market. And at the same time, it's the 3 C's of self-leadership, which is I talk on self-leadership, I work with leaders. And so you've seen there's like this evolution of who does Ben work with? Ben knows who he works with. Ben knows who wants to purchase from him. Ben knows what he wants to sell. Ben knows what's successful and what people actually need and what they resonate with. And so I imagine, and when I first started my business, it was take back control of your life was my tagline. Take back control of your career, which then that also, you realize what resonates with people, and then you make adjustments, create a career that you love. And so now for the past couple of years, you kind of unlock the door to what brings me the most clients, what people resonate with the most, what keywords are they using when I'm talking to them on sales calls. And so I'm happy to go into the system, but I know that was kind of a topic in itself.
Yeah, no, it was. And I think we can, I'm conscious of your time. I'll respect your time. And I have a few other questions I want to get your feedback on. We can direct people to your website and to learn more about the framework in detail. One thing that, you mentioned throughout a couple of different times, I guess, how you've been open to the evolution of your business or making changes in your business, right? Changing the brand or the focus, changing your framework or your tagline or things of that nature. How have your service offerings changed, if any at all, like in any adjustments to the structure, to the model, to your pricing strategy? Just kind of walk us through any lessons you've learned about your services and how you deliver them, since it's you, right? I mean, you are the business. What does that look like?
Well, what's really great about it just being me is that I can change my prices and packages tomorrow, and no one's going to know unless they're a referral, which
Right.
is not fun when you have to, I've had to tell all clients prior to referrals, please, do not discuss pricing because pricing has changed based on demand and availability, et cetera. Like, you're getting a better deal. Don't,
Right. Right.
Everything changes, I would say, over time. And then, but what really is more important is, what do you want to sell?
Hmm. What do you mean by that?
Well, because people are going to ask for what they think they want, as well as people are not going to know exactly what they want. And they're going to be looking at you to explain to them, to guide them towards the service offering that will be best for them. If you try to serve everyone and be flexible to everyone, they're going to lose trust in your service offering.
Hmm.
So having a package, having a name for that package, having a pricing that you can say confidently, no matter what the client wants, you are the expert and you explain why it's important. I can't tell you how many times I'm working with these high-powered executives. They hear weekly coaching. Weekly coaching? What? And I say, yeah, weekly coaching. A lot of other programs think they can get to the outcomes that you want with biweekly or monthly coaching. And I need at least 3 months of consistent weekly coaching sessions for us to build a foundation to be able to effectively reach your goals. Great. I'm not going to be flexible there. Now, if you work with me for 3 months, we can talk about biweekly, we can talk about monthly. But one, I know what I want to sell. I know the price I want to sell it at. I know why I want to do that. And so when someone tries to push back on that, you as a consultant really can't bend, really shouldn't bend, because then it makes you seem like you're because you're not really as much of an expert. You don't really know
why
what
3
works.
months? Why not like month by month, or 6 months, or 12
Yeah.
months? Where do you arrive at the 3 month number from?
So I've run programs where I've said I'm selecting 3-year-long clients, right? Because I wanted to work with someone for year-long programs, and I have done that, and I have enjoyed it. And now I do have longer term clients that have stayed on, that do sign up for 6 months and 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
But so I know what problems most of my clients face and who I sell to and what my messaging attracts. And I know that I can solve that within 12 sessions. Now, I've tried uh, 6 sessions. I've tried shorter sessions. I've done the ad hoc. So I'm being like, I've done the 1 session. I've done the 4 sessions. I've done the 6 sessions. I've done the 10 sessions. And I found what I want to sell the most and what leads to the outcomes that my clients need. And so it doesn't mean like I didn't know this right off the bat. Like I do 100% go behind the idea of sell packages, not sessions. Don't go by the hours to do a total program cost. That works for what I sell.
Sure. Yeah.
But what I've sold and how I've sold it and how I've worked with clients has changed significantly. I think it's going to change for anyone on this call, which is why it's also important to start consulting or start coaching if you're not yet, because I learned very quickly there are certain clients that will do the exercises that I assign. There are certain clients that are going to be overwhelmed by how I wanted to initially work with clients. And so I actually have like stepped back a little bit with the amount of work that I will require from clients based on the, really seeing what people are able to do, willing to do, what they're scared of, et cetera. So it was a constant evolution, probably, up to a year ago, and how that changes in the future also will depend on what the demand is in the market.
How have you thought about your pricing? I mean, you mentioned, so it is you're the one working one-on-one with your clients. You said you're not thinking just about hours, but clearly, if you're not working, you're not generating revenue because currently you don't have anything kind of passive or digital products or things of that nature inside, and no other team members are delivering this work. So how have you kind of arrived at your current pricing strategy, and any mistakes you've made in the past, or any just realizations you've had where you feel like, yeah, I'm in a good place right now with my pricing?
You never want to work with someone where you think you're giving them a good deal.
Tell me what you mean.
If you underprice yourself, you will start resenting that client and not perform it the way that you need to. If someone turns your contract down because of pricing, it's too expensive, right? Let's putting aside the idea that they didn't see the value in it, right? Which wasn't too expensive. They didn't see the value to make the decision. But if they turn you down because you're too expensive, at least to them, they are now going away with the idea that, wow, Ben's kind of expensive. That is a lot better than, wow, Ben is really cheap. And it's a lot better than you working with them and actually starting to not try to judge them and project on that. And so, when it's better to price higher than lower. And my pricing model is, what do I feel I'm worth? What do I feel this is worth? and I'd say to anyone, up, then level that up, like move that up another 20, 30%. And then based on demand. So are people saying yes to this? Did I have 3 people in a row say yes to this? Then, okay, increase my price. Did 3 people say yes to this, or did 3 people say no to this?
Mm-hmm.
And no doesn't always mean you're too expensive. It could mean that you're not selling it appropriately, or you're not targeting the right people.
Is there anything that you've done in the business when you think about, because it is just you, in terms of having a greater impact or being able to kind of scale your impact or grow revenue and profits further? Anything that you've considered or tried to accomplish that?
I mean, so I'm not like, there are times where I'm really busy and times where I'm just like, I'm good. I feel good. So it's not like I'm sitting here being like, I can't service everyone that I need to service. I also have another revenue stream, which is organizational leadership, right? Which is internal corporate work, which we haven't talked about, but that's like talent development, performance development, engagement, all that kind of stuff. So that would be something that I've used to increase revenue, which is like developing that other income stream with corporate clients.
Is that a small part of your overall revenue business, or what percentage would that make up?
So it was always looking to increase, the percentage of the pie that came from. And so that was always a sale. It was an additional sale that I could keep, provide to leaders. So it's like any consultants, do you have something that you can offer your clients other than your initial service offering that you like to sell? And so it was always kind of a, I'd say 20% maybe of what I sold. Right now I'm in a major project, so it's 50%.
Okay. All right. So before wrapping up,
it's a little, it sounds a little right now like robotic. That might be my headphones.
Let's see if we can fix that here. How's it coming through right now?
Yeah, I'm going to try.
All right, there we go. So a couple of quick questions for you, Ben, before wrapping up. The first is, I know you're very active. One of your main values is around health. I'm interested, in terms of what you feel contributes to your performance, to your productivity, to your focus the most. Are there 1 or 2 habits that you're just doing on a daily basis?
So there are things that I know that there are things that I know that work and things that I know that don't work. And I think everyone needs to find those out. So what is the 20% that you can do, right? Of all the things that you've done with your consulting business, what is the 20% that has led to clients, which is my main goal, right? What is the 20% that can lead to clients, and then do that. And so LinkedIn, we didn't talk about this, right? But there are services that you can use to help you with your LinkedIn outreach, and virtual events. So those are the 2 things that I know that crush it for me. And so I make sure that I'm doing them every month. And what keeps me focused is it's knowing the thing that I do leads to a specific outcome. That's what keeps me focused. And I guess in terms of like routine, I work out every day, period. I do hot yoga every Sunday. I play soccer on Saturdays. Like there's, in terms of health, I take my, supplements and my gut drink, every time I wake up, and I read for 15 minutes right when I'm up in the morning. So there's like certain things that I do for balance for myself that energize me, and then things I do for my business that I know I need to do. And I have a spreadsheet, and I don't always use it, but I use it when I'm not getting the outcomes that I need.
Yeah.
Right. So like things can go on autopilot when you're getting the outcomes that you need. When things are not going right, take a step back, go back to basics.
Yeah, great advice. It's so interesting with marketing. People are always or often looking for something new to try and to do. But if you have something that is already working for you, usually you should just be doing more of that before you look to add something on top of that. And then last question here for you, Ben, before wrapping up. Over the last 6 months or so, what book have you either read or listened to that you would recommend? Could be fiction, nonfiction, just anything that stands out to you.
I just finished 4,000 Weeks.
Okay, I have not heard of that. Who's the author?
Let me pull up my phone and pull it up. I highly recommend it. It is. There's a book I read right before that called.
Oh, it's Oliver Berkman. Is that the one?
Yeah, Oliver Berkman. Yeah, there's a book I read right before that called Do Nothing, along the same lines of how we think about work. But 4,000 Weeks is much more about how we think about time.
Mm.
and our perception of it, and how that perception motivates our actions and influences our emotions on a daily basis. So highly recommend that for anyone running their own business.
Good stuff. All right. And then finally, most importantly, I want to make sure people can learn more about you, your framework, your work, everything you have going on. Where's the best place for them to go, Ben?
Yeah, check me out at liveforyourselfconsulting.com, liveforyourselfconsulting.com, and make sure you connect with me on LinkedIn. Let me know that you heard me here. Dr. Benjamin Ritter, I think I'm the only one, but that's where I'm most active.
All right. We'll have all that linked up in the show notes. Again, Ben, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.